All right, so I want to give these large language models, these super state-of-the-art large language models here, OpenAI's Deep Research, Google Gemini's Deep Research, some of the new Gemini models, the DeepSeek, DeepThink R1 model. I want to give them all a run for their money. And I also, thanks to this user over here, ArgoX, who pointed out that, hey, there's some decent open source deep research tools out. Could we compare one of those? And Network Chuck actually pointed one out because there's a number of them, which is this one here by David Zhang. So I want to give this one a run for its money too, but I actually really like the code base. I've had a look through this over here. It's really, really nice, nicely structured code. I love that it's in TypeScript as well and not Python, because everyone seems to be just doing everything in Python at the moment, which I have nothing against Python indentation. I have nothing against Python, but anyway, this is really nice. So David Zhang's done a really nice job here. This is all very exciting. I can't wait to try it out. I've not installed this before. I'm just going to do it live with you guys here and see how it goes. Zig over here. Zig, Zig, Zig. Oh, where do I start with this? Because I love the syntax of Zig. I'm really enjoying learning about memory allocation in more detail. I'm enjoying the syntax of Zig. I'm coming from having worked with Rust for a while now, for a couple of years. And I am really frustrated with something that I have to learn. This is not Zig's fault. In fact, it's probably better with the way Zig does it, because everything is controlled by you. Let me tell you what I'm struggling with. Installing packages. Installing packages. The language is moving fast. There's new releases. The way things are done changes all the time. The documentation isn't always up to date, which should be a problem for large language models. And so you really have to try to kind of figure stuff out in places. And for people that are much more experienced than me, that wouldn't be a problem. But let me give you just an example of some of my programming experience here. I started with VBA because I was working in finance positions and I wanted to automate tasks and get home earlier. So that was great. That got me sort of into programming. Then I went into PHP and JavaScript for building websites. Then I went into Python because I love data science and data analysis. And then this happened. And basically, I was doing this for ages, and then I went into learning Rust. Love Rust. It was like crawling through glass back in the day to learn. It wasn't fun, especially when you're coming from more higher level languages. But then once I started working with it, it's like now everything else is painful because I know a program's going to run before I run it. That's how much I love using Rust. And actually, I think the unsung hero with Rust, the unsung hero, the thing that actually makes Rust really enjoyable is the Rust Analyzer. So the Rust Analyzer, if you don't know in VS Code, if you want me to do a video on it, I will. It just highlights all the problems you're going to have ahead of time. And it does it better than any other language I've used out there. So I've gone from Rust, I've decided, hey, I'm going to be learning some Zig now as well. I've been wanting to learn Zig for some time. Here for Rust, I've been working on a lot of financial applications, and so there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to use Rust, but also my knowledge about memory allocation or having written things that allocate a lot of memory wasn't that solid. And so now that I want to build more deep learning neural nets and new network architectures, low level, that kind of thing, I thought Zig would be a really good candidate for that. So that is my learning journey so far. So you can imagine when it comes to doing anything like building things at compile time or working more with macros. I've, done a bit here with Rust macros. Obviously, in the Rust course, we covered building macros when we built our auto GPT, all of that kind of stuff. But now with Zig, it's just a whole nother level. Like you have control over everything and you need to be fairly good. I'm not that good. I'm learning. So that's where I'm coming from. So with that said, I want these large language models here. So this ChatGPT, as Prime would call it, which I love, ChatGPT. I need ChatGPT over here to be able to help me install a Zig library. But before we go and do that, let me actually go and install one with you so that you can see how installing libraries with Zig actually works. And so this library here is called DVUI. So this is a GUI-based library here by David Vanderson. So David, thank you for this. We're going to try to install this library here using Zig. And I'm going to install this module here, the SDL standalone module. Now, the first thing when you're working with Zig and you want to install a package is make sure that whatever GitHub repo you're going to, because there is no real repo that just takes care of all these packages like npm.js, is it called, or Cargo. By the way, Rust's Cargo is like out of this world insanely good. I absolutely love it. There's nothing like that really. Zig has a package manager. It's called Zig. but it's more nuanced. I would say it's lower level. So with Rust and Cargo and all these things, everything sort of handles stuff for you, which I didn't even realize how much stuff was being handled for me until getting to this. So here, if we want to install a library with Zig, we actually have to go and find the GitHub repo for that library. If it's a Zig-based library, if it's a C-based library, then it works a bit differently because Zig is very compatible with C. Now it says tested with Zig 0.14, so use tag v0.2.0 for zig.013. So that means that when I install this library, I need to go and put in v0.20. By the way, I haven't got this working yet. I haven't actually downloaded and installed this and got it working yet. So we're going to give it our best shot right now. Let's go and see how we go and do it. I'm going to open up a terminal, and yes, it's just a boring old Mac terminal. And I'm going to cd into some development folder here, and I'm going to make a directory called, I'm just going to call it delete, because after I'm done with this, I'm going to remove it. And I like to mark it for removal. So let's just go cd into delete over here, and let us create our Zig files. So I've installed Zig and everything like that, of course. So here I'm just going to go Zig init, and it's done that. Let's go into VS Code so that we can see what that folder structure and everything looks like. So here it is. Let me zoom in so you can see things a bit better. That's a bit much for me. Here we've got main.zig. So this is the entry point here for your binary. So if you're building some kind of program that's going to run. Here we've got our root.zig, which is really here a library. And I know that because if I go to build.zig, it tells me what it's doing here. So add static library, we've called this project delete. And here is our source/root.zig. So we have two files here. We have a build file, which helps us decide exactly how we want to build things. What target we want. Do I want to build it for ARM architecture? Do I want to build it for x86? All of that stuff. Really love that. That's really cool. And I've had instances where I've used Docker in the past just to build things to x86 because I was struggling to get it working in Rust. And that's probably not Rust's fault, by the way. That's going to be me, human issues, learning issues. Anyway, so we've got that. That's great. And then here we've got our build.zig.zon, Zig object notation, just a bit like JSON. So JavaScript object notation. Here we have Zig.zon. This is our dependency file. So I'm going to zoom out actually so you can see this because there's so many comments here. But you've basically got name, version, dependencies, and paths. Dependencies are where it's at. So when we add a dependency, this is like adding a package. And we're going to use Zig's package manager to do that. I don't even know if I'm calling it the right thing. Zig is like, it does everything, the Zig command. So here I'm going to go terminal, new terminal. And I'm just going to build this as is for now. So you can see it there. So we're going to go Zig build. And now I could go Zig build run. This is another command you can run. So it'll build and run the code. All your code bases belong to us. And run Zig build test to run the test. So here I can actually go Zig build test and run the test. So how and why is it showing me those messages? Well, if I go to the main.zig here, you can see the Zig code and also the unit test over here, which is where it's running that from. Again, comparing this to Rust, I love the Rust unit testing and how it works, the modularity of that, everything. I'll absolutely love that. I'm going to try to stop comparing to Rust. And actually, this is one of the problems. The problem with learning a new language isn't the issues with the language. I tell you why, and I have to be conscious of this myself, because yesterday I was working with Zig packages, and I'm like, oh my word, do I want to learn Zig? What about Odin? Odin sounds, it's like that shiny object syndrome. Here's the problem when you're learning a new language. You compare it to the language before. And because you're used to doing things, we don't like change. Like a lot of us, especially that work in programming and tech, we love new stuff, right? We love to work on new stuff. But we also like to be able to just work on it. So when we're coming with all of this, all of this mindset from Rust coming into Zig, we are unfairly comparing to Rust all the time. And the same thing vice versa. One of the nice things is, when you are learning some Zig, you compare it to Rust and you go, actually, I wish I could do that in Rust more easily. I wish I could be more specific about memory without having to use this unsafe maybe, or would that even work? All that kind of stuff. So this is where it gets a bit challenging, is you're comparing it to different languages. So I'm trying not to do that too much, but just bear in mind, you're probably going to have to put up with me a fair amount here. So this is how we do it. Another thing we could do, by the way, just so you know, is we could go Zig run and then just do source and do main.zig, and that'll just run the Zig file or the main Zig file like that. So there you go. These are all the different ways I can go and actually run the code. But the challenge here now is to get this GUI library here, GUI, so Graphic User Interface Library, working with Zig over here. And this is the one by David Vanderson. Okay, so this is a Zig native GUI library. It looks like this, looks awesome. I've never really worked with GUI much. My background is web development. So this is going to be a journey for me nonetheless. What we need to do here is go Zig, and then we need to go fetch, because it's now going to go and fetch this library, this dependency, and we're going to go -- save, so it knows now to save this as a dependency. Now what I want to do is grab this GitHub repo over here. So grab the URL of this. You can also just go to code and copy that over here, right? So copy that and go save, and then go git plus, paste that in, and then tell it which part of the code you want. Do you want the latest and greatest at the top here? So you can go #head. And that there, if I go and hit enter, it will go and fetch it. And if I go over to my folders here, let's go down to build.zig.zon. Here you can see it's added it there. So have a look here. We've got this !ref equals head. But if we go back to the docs, it says use tag v.0.2.0 for Zig 0.13, which is the Zig we're using. So what I'm going to do is actually overwrite that with, instead of here, our #head, I'm just going to go #v0.2.0 and hit enter. And that should then go and replace that, which it has. Okay, so that's updated everything for me. Great. Let's go and add our dependency here onto the build.zig file. And so here I'm just going to call this dependencies. And we're going to say const dvui. You can call it whatever you want over here. And I'm just going to say that there is equal to our build, which is B. And I haven't gone through this build file in detail, obviously, because this would be way too long. But this is going to be build dependency. And then what's the name of the dependency? It's dvui, because if we go to our build.zig.zon, there's dvui over there. And our args here are going to be as follows. The target is going to be equal to the target. And the optimizer is going to be equal to optimize. Sorry, we should have a full stop there. And so this here is me just telling Zig that just use the same target and optimizer that I've got here as standard in my build file. Okay, great. So let's just go and do that. Hopefully that works. And then the next thing we need to do, for our executable is just say on the root module, there is an add import like follows. And that there is just going to be called dvui. And it says, what module do you want to import? Well, from our dvui above here, I just want to go .module. And I need to actually have a look at what modules are exported or how it's exported. Usually it might just say something like dvui, depending on the library. But you actually have to have a look. Let's go to the GitHub repo and just look at build.zig. And I don't know anything about this library, but I'm going to try here and work with this dvui SDL. By the way, I've looked at this library in the past, so if it looks like I'm navigating things quickly here, I'm not usually like this. It takes me longer, okay? So that's just how I am. Let's go here and add in that module over there that it's exporting here. So add dvui module. Now let's go over here to examples, and there is this standalone, SDL standalone Zig. That looks kind of standard to me, standalone SDL. It just sounds like it should work out the box. I know nothing about it, so I'm going to test it. Here we have this built-in and standard. This just comes part of Zig. And here's this import for dvui. So it's in our build file and everything. We should be able to just copy this here. I'm just going to copy this file. And I'm going to go over to my main.zig. And let's see if this works here. I'm going to copy and paste that in. And let's have a look at it. I need to zoom out. It's too zoomed in for me. So the first thing here, it's looking for this embed file, this Zig favicon over here. Well, I'm just going to give it some other favicon. Let me just have a look here. I've got a PNG for Zig. Let's go and add that in over here. So I've called that Ziggy. I'm just going to go, right, yeah, we'll add in Ziggy. So here we're going to go ziggy.png. That's fine. I'll add that in. What else is going on over here? We've got this if import OS is Windows. I'm not going to need that because I'm running on a Mac here. Let's just keep having a look down here. dvui window init. Okay, great. All right, I'm not going to read through all this. Let's just see if this actually builds. Zig build. Well, it's doing something. And I don't know what it's doing, but it's doing something and it's definitely failed. It says invalid option, de-optimizer. We don't want this optimizer in here. Let's just remove that for a second. Let's see if that builds. Wow, it's doing better than I thought it would. This is building. Oh my word, that actually ran. Let's just do zig build run. Whoa! Yes! Awesome. Okay. Awesome. That has actually worked. I've really struggled with Zig stuff, with package installations. The language itself is just so good. It's fun. I like working with it. I know a lot of people say that, so it's a bit of an echo chamber. But it is good. I enjoy that. But dealing with packages it's not been exciting, but it does make you think more about the code you're bringing into your project. Wow, this is so cool. Oh my word. Look, it tells me my frames per second. So how many frames per second here I'm using. This is awesome. David, you're my new hero. Now, let's give OpenAI Deep Research, Google, all of these guys, and the open source research one the same task. Can they figure this out? Let's find out. I'm going to be overly nice here to see how well these models do. I probably shouldn't be so kind, but I'm going to. I'm a complete beginner to Zig. I'm using version 0.13.0. I need to install and run the Zig-based GUI library called dvui. Your job is to research how exactly to do that step by step, given I already have Zig installed on my macOS ARM system. I want to run the SDL standalone example from dvui. It must run first try, so really think about the Zig version dependencies build file for my version and make sure your instructions will work. You will need to ensure that you take into account the GitHub README so that we understand exactly what version of the library to use. Let's just add this here. This is for a competition. We only get one strike. Think hard on this one. Okay. Let's send it. Let's send it here. Now, one of the nice things, okay, first of all, note that I'm using Google Chrome. I found this works much better with Open Research or Deep Research. The other thing since the last video is I don't need a VPN to run this now in the UK, which is fantastic. Thank goodness. That was getting really annoying. So I'm running all of this just here from the UK local network here with my broadband or whatever. It might work just as well on Safari. I haven't been trying it, but I have to go online. Again, it's not working yet on the apps or the desktop apps and all that stuff. Are you using Zig from the official download or via a package manager like Homebrew? Actually, I'm using Homebrew, I think. I'm not sure. Do you already have SDL2 installed on your Mac? SDL2, yes, I believe I do. Would you like to use Zig's package manager, build.zig.zon, or manually clone and link the DVI? No. You're getting this wrong. build.zig.zon. Thanks for the details. I'll now research the exact step-by-step process to install and run the standalone example. Okay, great. So here, let's copy this here into Gemini. Okay, so there you go. That is that for Google Gemini, Deep Research. Let's go and hit send there. And that's just going to say just a second, won't take long, and then we'll tell it to go and start the research. While that's running, let's try Google Advanced 2.0 Pro Experimental, my word. Guys, we need to do something about all these models. It's getting a bit crazy. Let's see how it goes. Okay, here's a detailed step-by-step assumptions installed and in your path, verification, Homebrew installed. Okay, good. Install Zig Package Manager if not already done. Create build.zig.zon. Let's have a look here. Okay, I don't think that's the module. dvui dep. So this is old code. This is not for version 0.13. So again, these models are only, if they're not accessing the internet like this one here I'm looking at right now, then it's only as good as whatever it's read online. So this isn't going to work. But honestly, I'm impressed it got this part right because I've seen so many models actually just even fail at this step. So that's okay. I can deal with that. This is not a deep research tool over here. It just has access to the internet. So I'm going to give it a bit more help about what it actually needs to do. Let's go and hit enter there and see how it does. Okay, it's doing some thinking. These Google Flash models, I don't know how good they are in terms of what they give back, but they are quick. One thing for sure is, like, if speed is a weapon, they win. They are faster than anything else out there. Okay, that's actually moving too much. Let me go back over here to Gemini. That's now researching 5 websites, so it's really thinking about it. That's good. How's OpenAI doing? Still making progress. Whilst that's going, let's go and do it here for Deep seek. Go. Right. So it's starting its thinking. I'm going to go back over here. This one is still, geez. Okay, this one is done. Okay, very interesting. I'm wondering where it got this from, this way of doing it. I don't know if that's going to work. I'm looking forward to trying it out. Let's actually go and see here. So Zig build SDL standalone. Okay, interesting. So the first thing I'm going to do is just test out these dependencies. So if I go back over here to my build.zig.zon and I just replace that with this, will that work? I don't think so, because I think it needs the actual hash. Okay, .url. Yeah, that's not working for me. That's not going to work. Not terrible. I'd say it's on the right track. I'm not even going to test this now to see if this works, because if this isn't working, then I know it's making stuff up. And so it's read some stuff about Zig, and it's trying to make sense of that. It probably hasn't searched that much, but it hasn't worked. Let's see how DeepSeek is doing. The server is busy. Please try later. Okay, DeepSeek is not playing ball. Let's go over here to OpenAI. Right. Installing and running the DVUL SDL standalone example for this version. Oh! Did I tell it? Like, what did I tell it here? Yeah, it didn't get as much help as the other guys, okay, because this is the big boy here, right? This is the OpenAI Deep Research. So let's see here, DVUI v0.2.0. That alone saves time. That alone saves a lot of time. I'm telling you now, just getting that right. So good. Okay, here's the hash, automatically inserted hash. And of course, it would have put the code there. Didn't think to add that on, but I'll forgive you, because if we do this first step, that step automatically works. Confirm the version, configure build.zig to use DVUI. Okay. So add executable. No, that's that part. What's all this? Mac OS, Metal. Geez, linking all these frameworks. Do we have to do that? I didn't need to do any of that. Interesting. Up here. Okay. Dependency DVUI. Optimize. Okay, so maybe before I shouldn't have put optimizer. Maybe I should have put optimize. I'm curious though, will it build if I do that? So if I go up here to my build Zig, is this .optimize? Okay. That's something I messed up. So I put in the wrong key here for this object. It should be .optimize. Yeah, this is working. This is working fine. My bad. Okay, let's execute that, or let's close that down, I should say. And let's go back here. So good. So that's taught me something. That's useful. I'm actually really impressed with this. This is good. And then add module. Yeah, but it's not add module. It's actually root. The add module won't work. It's exe.root_module. I had to find a YouTube video to figure that part out. And I guess if I had actually gone into the library, maybe I could have found it that way. But nonetheless, okay, so close. This would not have just worked. I don't know why it's saying to do all this. It's interesting that it is saying to do it nonetheless, but very, very good. Very interesting. So that has worked a lot better than I thought it would. Wouldn't have worked out of the box. So fail, but the best fail so far. So taking a look at Google here, right? Installing and running DVUI on Zig 0.13 Mac ARM. So this one, it's just a fail. So these have failed. I'm very impressed with the speed. Basically, if these models have read something on the internet that gives the answer exactly perfectly in various places, it'll probably memorize that and regurgitate it fairly well. OpenAI's one has impressed me because it's the one thing that's come out and said, actually, you need to do this Zig fetch save, and it's going to do this, and this is the structure of it. DeepSeek, I'm sure it's great, but it hasn't worked for us, which leaves us here with this open source deep research by David Zhang. So David, thank you. Let's go and crash test this now. I'm going to come out of our delete file there, and I'm going to just do git clone. And what is this here? This is code. Let's copy you over here, and I'm just going to call this delete2. And let's cd into delete2 and code open that here as well. Right, great. So what did he say the env folder needs to be? .env.local. So let's just do touch.env.local, and it should appear here. Here's our .env. So all I need to do is put in my firecrawl key and my OpenAI key. We need to do npm install, I believe. Let me just check the GitHub instructions here. So yeah, npm install. Great. Let's go and do that. And what is it saying here? What? Brew update, brew reinstall node, brew info, brew link. Okay, let's try now. So npm install. There you go. Nice. So let's go npm start. And it says here, what would you like to research? Let's go over here and let's make this tough. Like I say tough, but there we go. I'm just going to paste that in. Right, let's put in the depth. I'm going to put 5. The O3 Mini does not exist, or you do not have access to it. Are you serious? Why would I not have access to it? All right, let's figure out what's actually going on here. So I'm going to go back up here, find out how to check if I have access to O3 Mini. Okay, so it's doing a Bing search. How to check if I have access. It's doing what I should just do. I don't understand. I'm watching it do something slower than I would actually just go and do it. So help.openai.com. Verify you are human. Oh. Could you please complete this verification? Okay. Oh, no. O3 Mini, including O3 Mini, access to O3 Mini is rolling out to select API users across trust tiers 3 through 5. I don't even know what trust tier I'm on. I'm not working with OpenAI APIs anymore. Haven't been for a long time. Sorry, guys. I won't be able to test this one out for you right now. I guess I could try and, use some other model to do it, but the whole point is O3 Mini is supposed to be smart enough. So I'm not going to be able to do that one. Big disappointment over there, but try it at home if you have access. Damn it, I even went and added credits onto my OpenAI account to go and test it out. That's disappointing. In summary, Zig has destroyed everything. Zig has broken AI. It's probably another reason why I'm enjoying Zig at the moment. It's a challenge. It forces us to stay sharp and to think. And interestingly enough, if you think about June, the story of June, AI happened way before the story of June. And I think in the book, what I heard is that they called it thinking machines, and thinking machines were banned because humans started losing their ability. I found that quite interesting when you compare it to how we just copy and paste stuff into AI now. But the one that came the closest was OpenAI's Deep Research. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from this video. Until the next one, take care and talk soon.